Hi, everybody. Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. We got an article from Your Tango about a luxury beauty worker crying tears of joy after she finally quit her job. She resigned from her dream job, a luxury dream job, because it made her feel burned out. And this is a really interesting topic because very often, I've also worked in the luxury field, both behind the scenes and on the sales floor and during Fashion Week. I've done it all. And I can tell you, working in the boutiques is no joke. It is hard, really psychologically straining and physically straining. And the article is from Your Tango. It says, she encouraged others to put their own needs first because no job should come between you and your mental health. Now, uh, that's the bottom line. But so it's interesting because she says that it doesn't matter if you're working at a job that directly aligns with your interests, if it's taking a toll on your mental health, right? So, and again, whenever we have these really highly stressful situations related to luxury and fashion, and something is going wrong, guess from which country the story comes from? Australia. What's up with Australia? Why do we always have all of these weirdest scenarios, okay, happening always in Australia? Can somebody tell me what's up with luxury in Australia? The luxury, poor Jessie. Jessie's the only one who is salvageable from this entire mess. By the way, shout out to Jessie Style. Go subscribe to her channel. On the tubes. But anyway, this is happening in Australia. And so they say such was the case of a woman in Australia who admitted in a TikTok video that despite working at her dream job, she ended up having to quit because of the toll that it was taking on her well-being. And then she describes kind of how it all begins. She did apply for the job and she went through the whole process of the interviews. You know how it is. I mean, it's not like you just go to one interview and they're like, oh, you look good, your resume looks good, you're hired. Usually it's like 2, 3, 4 steps of the interview until they finally make the decision. That's how it is in luxury. And then, so obviously, they also do that in part to make you feel like you owe them something, which is the part I hate the most, to be perfectly honest with you. And again, this is where HR, looking at you, Lena Nair. Everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only, not rooted in truths or facts. Everything's a legend, just my opinion. But you know, Lena used to be the head of HR at Unilever. And now she's the head of bacon at Chanel. CEO of Chanel. And so HR's job is to, weed out the crazies and the people who are not really qualified to do the job. But at the same time, they're also there to make you, as a potential employee, feel as though you should be thankful that they're hiring you. When in reality, it's a give and take scenario. Yes, you're thankful to have a job, but your employer, if they do decide to hire you, it's because they think that you can bring something substantial to the table. You can contribute to the brand or to the company. And here is the part. Sorry, my hair just got stuck to my necklace. Okay, I detached it. And here's the interesting part, because you come to a point where you have to realize that they're hiring you because you're good. Okay. But they don't really tell you that. They want you to feel like you should be really grateful that you passed the 2, 3, or 4 interviews and then you finally got the job. And they do that to psychologically also make you kind of not demand too much, you know? When the negotiations then begin with like the salary and the this and the that, they want you to feel like you could lose that job very easily if you demand too much, right? So she fell for it. So this lady in Australia fell for it. And so she got the job. And pretty soon they started giving her more and more tasks. And, they made her feel like she should be grateful to have the job. So she would take on more than she was paid to do. And pretty soon she says she was made to feel as though her private life and the hobbies that she had and like working out to, keep the body in shape kind of all started to be pushed more in the background the more she worked. So she would kind of start doing overtime, in some cases, not paid overtime. And then she said, at one point, they made her, they didn't tell it to her in words, but you know how the job environment can be toxic and you're led to feel and believe as though that is your number one priority. So you're led, and again, Lena Nair, in an interview, in several interviews that we've watched her do on YouTube with Business of Fashion and Bloomberg, she said very clearly, you have to love your job, and enjoy the position you're in. You don't have to climb the social ladder. I'm at the top. Don't take my position. Stay low, allegedly. And so obviously, they made her feel like she has to prove herself. And how does she prove herself? By doing more than she's asked to do, you know? And of course, when they saw her doing more than she was asked to do, it's not like they stopped her and said, hey, slow down. It's okay. You're doing fine. Slow down. You don't have to do more. No, they let her do more. And they profited off of that. They see a worker willing to go way and beyond what they're asked to do and not paid extra to do it. They're going to be like, oh, look at you, sucker. You want to do it for free? Yeah, keep doing it. So little by little, she stopped going to the gym. She had no more time to really go to the gym. She wasn't motivated anymore. She kind of in her mind started thinking, well, my job is my hobby now. My job is my priority. I live for my job. So she, she stopped taking care of herself, of the shape of the body, whatever. She stopped her hobbies. She spent less and less time with the family. And it came to a point where she realized she had nuked her identity. She was no longer really in touch with herself, right? She was living in function of the job. And then she was thinking really hard about quitting, resigning, and then she formulated her resignation letter. And then she was scared to give the resignation letter to, her manager because again, that pressure, it's like you get brainwashed into thinking that this is your existence. Like if you don't do this job anymore, like you don't exist. And this is a psychological type of warfare that they're doing on people. I'm not even joking, you guys. This is very, very dangerous and many jobs do this. Nobody talks about this. And they're never going to admit it because if they were to admit it, you got a lawsuit on your, um, on your side that you could perpetrate and pursue. So nobody really talks about this, but psychologically and subconsciously, you get put in a position where you really get anxiety attacks thinking, okay, if I leave this job, then I'm not going to get good credentials. Then the next job I get, they're going to want to hear from this job how I was, and then they're going to tell them that I was bad at my job. So you are kind of enslaved to that system. And that fear made her not quit for the longest time until she really got a nervous breakdown, a total burnout. Then she finally quit. She also started, seeing a shrink. So she stopped going to the gym, but started going to the shrink instead. I mean, so you need to shrink at a certain point. You need to go to a psychologist or psychologist in her case, I think, in order to kind of just maintain the job, to be able to somehow function at your job and not completely burn out and freak out. And I'm like, what sort of life is that? But you know what? You'd be surprised. Many people are going through this. And this is a situation that a lot of people are going through this. And they're not talking about it because there's a lot of shame and stigma surrounding this topic. And, we haven't really made big steps forward when it comes to physical SA, not sales associate, not that essay, the other essay. We talk about this often, especially when women get harassed. There's a lot in our society. There's a lot of victim blaming and victim shaming, and a lot of women don't come forward because they're just scared that somebody's going to tell them, "Well, it was your fault, bitch, because you wore a short skirt. You were begging, ferret." So there's a lot of that terrible, terrible victim blaming that we're working on as a society. Well, we're saying we're working on it, but I've seen a lot of instances lately, real time, where I was, I have seen the opposite of that actually happening, which is really sad. But what I want to say is that's already kind of at least a topic that at least some of us, are really strong about and talk about it openly. And it's become more acceptable to talk about it. It wasn't just a couple of decades ago, you guys. Even this was totally shameful. Nobody would talk about it, right? But now there's this other level of a lot of people are really embarrassed and ashamed to admit and to talk about the peer pressure that they have at work, the mental breakdowns that they're having at work. Why are they ashamed? Why is there a stigma? Because a lot of these companies and corporations make you feel like, well, honey, if you can't take this workload, you're not good enough. There's another 20 people waiting in line to take your job, so somebody will be strong enough and good enough to do your job if you can't. And you see, this is how they get you. This is how they make you feel lesser than. This is how they make you feel like you have to shove underneath the carpet whichever insecurities you have or whichever anxieties, or just the fact that the workload that they're shoving onto you is too much. And there's the stigma to speak out about it and to say, hey, this is too much, because if you say it openly, they're going to say, oh, you're complicated. Oh, look at you acting up. Oh, look at you being a diva. Oh, this is too much for you, poor baby. Yeah, then go home. Okay, go home. There's somebody who's ready to take your job for less pay. Somebody who's more desperate than you, in other words, somebody who's more thirsty than you to take your job. And this has to stop. Like, we have to really come to a point where we are honest about this, um, uh, where we don't feel guilty and bad and ashamed to say openly, hey, you're demanding too much. I don't have my own life anymore. Some of these corporations, let's not make any names. Lena, are you listening? They don't even want you to have an Instagram account. Not really. And if you do have an Instagram account, your private Instagram account, while you're working for said company, they're like, try not, don't post private stuff on your Instagram, you know. They control everything about your life. Oh, don't wear tattoo. Don't, get tattoos done while you're working for us. No piercings. Don't do this. Don't behave like that. Don't wear this. Don't wear that. I don't like how you look. Oh, cut your hair, in many jobs nowadays, if you're a man, in the United States, I mean, in Europe, some European countries, they cannot discriminate you for your hair. But in America, a man with long hair, in many places, they can fire you for having long hair. You got to have that conservative, short cut hair in order to be eligible to maintain your job or to be hired. So this is why I'm saying it's a big problem, and especially when it comes to luxury, because first of all, why especially? Every field is difficult nowadays, but with luxury, you have that extra added element of if you're working on the sales floor, they want you to be presentable. They want you to represent a luxury's dream of unattainability, but they're putting so much pressure on you that you can't even manage anymore to have time to work out, to get a toned body, to show off the body in your uniform while you're at work. You don't have the time anymore to go on a regular basis to a beauty salon to get your hair cut properly, to just be, you don't have enough time in the morning to put on the makeup properly so that you can be presentable at work. Why? Because it's the work environment itself that causes so much stress and pressure that you can't anymore. And of course you go in burnout. Of course you go in burnout. It's insane. Nicole says in the chats, I personally find a lot of, I need to scroll that chat up. A lot of employers' mental health resources as performative. They don't really care. Yeah, they just say there's mental health like department, but it's just like to protect themselves from potential legal issues. But they don't really care. I agree with you. I agree with you. Ellie says corporations don't have feelings. It's all about the money. Cecilia says, this is happening in all industries. I'm expected to do half of my workload in my spare time, unpaid. And if I fuss, I'll be quickly replaced by younger, more eager, and cheaper employee. There you go. You see, Cecily says, there has to be a fundamental change to how we approach work. But there won't be, because these corporations are very powerful. They're big and they're lobbyists. So they are in cahoots with the politicians and with the lawmakers, and there's no way of changing it. The only way to change it is if you take the power back into your own hands, but the only power you can have is your spending. So only if people stop buying from those brands will it change. But from within, it's very difficult to change the workers because, like I said, there's always somebody more desperate or younger, or like Cecily says, more younger than you who's willing to take the job for less. And so, in terms of employees changing something, very difficult. You can unionize. Corporations hate when you unionize, but even the unions don't have full power. Even the unions, and we've seen it happening with SAG-AFTRA, right? Just a couple of months ago when the union was fighting for better, fairer pay for the actors and crew. Did they get their demands met? No. In part. Yes, it's always a compromise, but it wasn't anywhere near to what would be considered technically the minimal necessary to live a healthy life, to have safe health insurance for the work that you do, and so on and so forth. But so really the only way that we can take the power back is not as employees, in my opinion, but as customers. As customers. That's the only way. That's the only way. So don't go to buy stuff in a boutique where you know that the co-workers are mistreated. Then don't give them your money. And this is where I'm getting to the focal point of all of this. How do we get to know about this? Well, you're at the right place. My channel is one of those places. How do we as customers, but also as employees, get together to talk and to find a place where we can exchange actually this form of information and learn from each other, help each other? This is where social media comes in handy. Platform like YouTube and on my channel in particular, this is what I strive towards all the time. Getting to share with you this intel and information so that, first of all, the people who are hired by these companies, you as a worker, as an employee, you don't have to go out on a limb and risk losing your job by speaking out. I'll do it for you. Because, bitch, I'm on nobody's paycheck but my own. So, like I said in a couple of videos ago, I have nothing to lose but my dignity. So it's really hard for them to come for me. And if I share the information with you guys and we get to discuss this, that's a whole different ballpark. This is literally what a grassroots movement is made of. So the power is in our hands. But as consumers, we're living in a consumer society where they want to hook you with FOMO, and we've made several videos on the topic of how brand marketing works and how they try to manipulate you into feeling the need to purchase something rather than just the desire, because there's a difference between what we want and what we need. And I've explained this in other videos. But if you free yourself from the FOMO and you start really voting with your wallet, oh, then the music changes, and it changes oh so quickly. The second they're not earning their money, and if they are a publicly owned company, the second that their shareholders are not getting their upped percentages of earnings every quarter, then the music changes. And we've seen it just happen at Burberry just the other day. They fired the CEO. Why? Because nobody's buying their shitty shit for the extremely high prices. And they're like, oh, damn. I'm like, yeah, well, wake up and smell the coffee. Yes, consumers are dumb. but we're not that dumb. And we're waking up. More and more, little by little, we're waking up. We're waking up. We can unify. The consumers, different type of union than a labor union, okay? The consumer union, because we share information with each other. You can also always send me confidentially an email to superdacob@gmail.com if you wish to share something that happened to you at work. Of course, I'll keep it confidential if you want me to keep it confidential, but I can then spread the news here, not use your name, but I could say, hey guys, somebody from some stores told me this. This is happening to them. And look at that. We have a platform here. And then, because how else would that other person have had the chance to spread awareness about some form of injustice happening to them at their work? There's no other way. So I'm really glad to spread that awareness for you. So let me know your thoughts and prayers down below. And I'm really, really glad. And thumb up the video if you liked it and share this video with others. And I'm really, really glad that this lady from Australia got the nerve and the guts. Finally, she stepped up to the occasion and she did hand in her resignation letter. And she says she's feeling much better now that she is no longer working in such a toxic environment that took up her entire life. She didn't have any more private sphere left. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching. This is why communities are really important. This is why communities are really important. Think about it. See, social media can be used for really interesting purposes, not just, here's another $15,000 unboxing of what hubby got me at Hermes last week in Hawaii. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Bye.